Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Artisan Pirate here, and in today's fun video we are going to be back over on the Longer Ray5 20W diode laser engraver, making some beautiful and creative fan art to take part and celebrate the 50th anniversary release date of the classic and iconic Jaws movie. Today is June 20th, the day of this video's upload, and it is the 50th anniversary of the iconic shark movie, the original summer blockbuster. So really cool. Steven Spielberg, the cast and crew, knocked the movie out of the park, and it is a classic movie in the cinema history of Hollywood and everything. It has a great backstory behind it with the cast and crew, the production history, and everything like that. Keep in mind we are talking about the movie in today's video, but Jaws, of course, did start off life as a classic book by Peter Benchley. Here is the original book. My mom got this for me for my birthday a few years ago, and I thank her for it because it's the reason that I got back into reading full time. And there is several different elements in this book that is way different than the shark movie Jaws itself. And I always tell people to try to read the book before they watch the movie adaptation. Of course, I've seen the movie several times over before I ever picked up and read the book, but now I'm thankful that I have read the book itself, and it's in my collection of Jaws stuff that I have, and I've also, of course, seen the movie several times. You guys know I have several Jaws themed shirts that I have worn in previous videos, if you guys have noticed them. And around 5 years ago, back in 2020, we made some Jaws fan art. And keep in mind, we are making fan art in today's video. What I'm going to be making is specifically for me, and I'm not going to be mass producing it to put in a vendor market, put on an online store or craft fair or anything like that. But around 5 years ago, I believe it was in 2020, we cut out the Jaws movie poster itself, and this is my design here that I created for Scroll Saw Woodworking. Everything you see here was cut out by hand over at the Scroll Saw. This one was cut out of 1/4 inch material, and it has a 1/4 inch backer board behind it, and you can see all the beautiful details with the shark, the woman swimming at the top, and then the Jaws logo itself. And how I got this pattern was a very old school way. I basically printed out the Jaws movie poster to this size that you see here in black and white, and I took some tracing paper and a bright light and had it over it and just traced out the details that I thought would look cool for a Scroll Saw woodworking pattern, and that is how this portrait came to be. And in that video we stack cut and made 2 of them, and in that video I had between the 2 layers of 1/4 inch material a piece of poster board sandwiched between them, and we ended up with a Jaws stencil as well. And this can be used for spray paint or airbrush purposes. You know, you can lay it on a piece of material and spray paint the poster on something very quickly. But I passed it along to my buddy Shannon at Zip Zero Art over on social medias, and he scanned it in and digitized the pattern into a PDF vector format for me to use. And that is what we are going to be making in today's video. Another version of the classic Jaws poster over on the laser. You can see that I have the Lightburn software loaded up. I have the file loaded up. Again, it has been digitized into a vector. And now what I can potentially do is take the movie poster and do more fan art on some like glass or slate drink coasters or things like that. I really love the options and versatility when it comes to the laser engraver, just like with Scroll Saw Woodworking. But again, this is my design here, and when it was digitized by my buddy Shannon, I was able to go in and clean up anywhere that I might have got off on the line over at the Scroll Saw, if that makes any sense. You know, I was able to, you know, clean up some of those lines, but then I imported it to the Lightburn software, and that's what we have now. And I've already got our material cut. We will sand it to a high grit sanding of 180 grit sandpaper with the vibrating palm sander with Klingspor Woodworking Shop sandpaper before we get started. And as you can see here, this is cut to the size of my laser bed, but the poster that I made originally is way bigger, so there's going to be another option to use this design here in a digital format. I can shrink it down or enlarge it to whatever size I need. Again, this is fan art that we are making in today's video. And to save a little bit of time when it comes to filming, I've already taken a piece of the same 1/4 inch material we're going to be laser cutting through, and I've got it spray painted a nice glossy black color for the background, and it's already dry to the touch and everything, just to save a little bit of time with filming. But again, it is the 50th anniversary of the Jaws movie, and I just wanted to do something to take part in the 50th anniversary celebrations. And since we've already cut the poster out completely from start to finish over on the Scroll Saw, I felt it would be cool to make it once again a little bit smaller over on the Longer Ray5 20W diode laser engraver. So what I'm going to do now is put on my safety UV goggles. Of course, we always wear these whenever the laser is on and running. We are going to turn on the air filtration unit and get started. And here we have the completed miniature Jaws movie poster, laser cut completely over on the Longer Ray5 20W diode laser engraver, and it finished up beautifully with some fantastic and crisp details in it. Once again, as I said at the beginning, we made today's project to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the classic movie's release date. Today is June 20th, and it of course is the 50th anniversary of the classic and iconic movie about the great white shark terrorizing the coastal town. So really, really cool. I had a lot of fun in today's video, and as I also said at the beginning of the video, this is a piece of fan art. This is not something that I'm going to be mass producing to make to sell online or take to craft fairs or vendor markets or places like that. It's just something that I wanted to make in a miniature format out of wood to add with my personal Jaws collection. Now, I do not have a lot of Jaws stuff like I have, say, Hot Wheels cars, model trains, or Swiss Army knives, but it's still something. If I see a shirt with the movie poster on it like I'm wearing here, I have a lot of Jaws themed shirts that you guys have hopefully seen me wear in previous videos, or if I see, you know, just something small that I can stick on a shelf with the rest of the few Jaws items that I have, I will of course pick it up if it's inexpensive, just to show my love on that shelf of the classic movie that is Jaws. So really cool. And keep in mind, I just said Jaws movie because it is the 50th anniversary of the Jaws movie itself, but it's not the 50th anniversary of the book by the same name by Peter Benchley. The movie was based on the book, and my mom got this for me. I believe it was back in 2023 for my birthday, and I thank her for getting it for me. And then I read the book after a while, and I was really excited to see all of the differences between the page and the movie itself, because that's usually commonplace when you go from a movie, the page, to the silver screen, so to speak. And I always encourage anyone, if they can, to go and read the source material before viewing the movie itself. But of course, I'd seen the movie a few or several times over before I had ever picked up the book itself that my mom got me, and I thank her for getting me this book. And again, there's a lot more detail with the thought process and everything with the book itself as opposed to the movie, because you have to translate the page to the movie. And Steven Spielberg, that cast and crew, knocked it out of the park, and the movie is a great suspenseful ride from the opening scene where you see the first shark attack all the way to the closing scene where they finally take out the great white shark. So really, really cool. Again, it took the laser around an hour to laser cut this out completely from start to finish, and you guys seen in the time-lapse portion, hopefully you guys picked up on it, that I was using 2 passes as opposed to the single pass that I traditionally use for the 1/4" material that I like to use over at the laser. Keep in mind, it is a 20W diode laser, and I just wanted to make sure that the laser was cutting through all of the details in the shark, the lady swimming at the top, and the classic logo cleanly, precisely, and crisply, if that makes any sense. That is why it took an hour. Now also keep in mind, with laser engravers, if you have a more powerful wattage laser, if you have a lower wattage laser, if you have a bigger or smaller laser, the time that it's going to take you to make each individual project is going to vary. But it did take around an hour for my 20W Longer Ray5 diode laser to laser cut this completely. And you guys seen that my laser is in a proper dust enclosure. That is proper for laser engravers if you're going to have them in a garage or workshop to properly extract all of those fumes that it produces while laser cutting. Of course, there's different chemicals with each material you work with. This is a form of plywood, and of course the glue's in there and everything, and you don't want those fumes floating in the air of your garage or workshop. That is why it's proper to have one in an enclosure. That's why I like to stick the GoPro on the inside of the laser to give you guys the best vantage point and viewing point as possible during the laser cutting process. And of course, I had the air filtration unit running that's hanging in the rafters of the workshop, and I also had on my safety UV goggles, and I had them on anytime I stepped over to the laser to check and make sure it was doing its job. And of course, I hope it goes without saying that due to the nature of the laser, I hope you guys never walk away and leave a laser unattended due to the nature of them, as I just said. Of course, you can quickly step away to go get a sip of water, a drink or something, or go use the restroom, but they are never a tool you want to leave unattended. But after the laser was done laser cutting everything, we took the piece off of the laser bed, and then we cut the backer board down to a more manageable size over on the bandsaw. As I said at the beginning and showed you guys, we had already spray painted the backer board black to save some time for filming the video that you guys are viewing. And then we glued the 2 pieces together with medium grade CA glue and activator. And then I went over to the Rikon scroll saw and trimmed it down to the best of my abilities. I've done some flush cutting, and then we done some flush sanding over at the belt sander, and it really does a great job of making this look like one seamless piece of material as opposed to two pieces of 1/4" material like it is in actuality. But then I finished it in a standard rustic finishing way. I stained the actual laser cut poster itself a very light shade of Minwax wood stain to still allow the natural grains and textures of the material to shine through, and then we finished it with a few coats of Rust-Oleum clear gloss that really makes the grain pop, gives it a nice glossy appearance that you can see reflected there in the lights of the workshop, and gives it protection for years to come. Now, of course, with a project like this, you could go above and beyond, especially with the laser. If you have, again, a more powerful laser, you could laser cut this out of more exotic or hardwoods that just, due to the density of certain materials, it might take a little bit longer or maybe not as much time to laser cut an intricate design like this. And of course, with a design like this, I could of course went in with acrylic craft paints and really jazzed it up. I could have went in and painted the bubbles around the shark, painted some blue here to simulate him coming up out of the ocean, painted him a nice gray color, painted up the lady swimming in the ocean, and painted the classic Jaws logo a nice bright red. So there's options and versatility with finishing each and every creative design you make. And remember, this design started as a scroll saw woodworking pattern, and here we're going to hold up the one that I showed you at the beginning of the video so we can compare and contrast. And the one that I cut out on the scroll saw back in 2020 for a featured video, it is a lot bigger than the one we made today. So that shows another unique versatility of a laser engraver. You can quickly on the fly enlarge or shrink designs down to whatever size material you have. Now, I could of course make this poster here that we made, this bit of fan art, a lot bigger if I wanted to, if I had a bigger laser bed. So also keep that in mind. I made this pretty much to the size of the laser bed height wise. I could have went a little bit wider with it, but it would have probably looked stretched out, if that makes any sense. But I do have now a miniature one made on the laser, and the original one we cut out completely from start to finish over on the scroll saw. If you guys would like to go back and see that video that came out, again, I believe it was in 2020. But really, really cool here. Here is that design that I give to my buddy Shannon at Zip Zero Art, and I thank him for digitizing the stencil here that I showed you guys at the beginning of the video. Again, it's just a piece of basic dollar store poster board that I sandwiched between the two layers of the one that I just held up and cut out on the scroll saw to, again, have a stencil to where I could use it for airbrush or spray paint purposes. You know, I could loosely tape it to a piece of material and take some spray paint and just put the Jaws poster on something like that quickly, you know, during the summertime. Or I could use it to transfer it to more material to cut out on the scroll saw. But I passed this along to him, and he digitized it in a vector format, in a PDF format, that I could then screenshot and go in and manipulate however I wanted to make it into a line drawing to import to the Lightburn software to use for laser engraving and laser cutting. Keep in mind, I use the Lightburn software with the lasers that I use out here in the workshop. But I'm really happy with how it came out, and I want to hold up the original again because I just said manipulate the pattern. As you guys seen in the original one, I got a little bit off on the J there, and it got a little wide in that swooping of the J in Jaws. I cleaned up the design a little bit in the vector that my buddy Shannon made me, and made it a little bit narrower here on this J and over here on the S. I was also a little off on the one on the scroll saw, but that was just a unique way to clean up the design to take it over to the laser engraver. I hope that makes sense. But once again, this is fan art, and I'm really happy with how it came out. But now that I have that digital vector format of the design that I made back in 2020 on the scroll saw, I could of course do this in other unique ways. I could laser engrave it on a piece of cardboard or make additional stencils a little bit smaller, you know, again for spray paint or airbrush purposes. I could engrave it on slate drink coasters for drinks to set on, or I could even, if you have a proper powerful enough laser, engrave the same design on a piece of glass. So I really love the options and versatility when it comes to laser engraving. And now I have two versions of the classic Jaws movie poster, the movie that I really love, in a format that I cut out over completely on the scroll saw, and now one cut out completely over on the laser. So really, really cool. I hope along today's video you guys picked up a tip, trick, or tidbit, and I hope you guys enjoyed celebrating the 50th anniversary of Jaws with me over here on the platform. And if you guys have never seen the movie, I highly encourage you to go and try to find it to stream or buy it on DVD, because it is a great movie, again, from that opening scene all the way into the credits. And Steven Spielberg and company really knocked the movie out of the park and done a great job of adapting the original book by Peter Benchley. But really, really cool. Happy 50th anniversary to the Jaws movie. That's going to be about all for this one. If you're new to the channel, hopefully you'll click that subscribe button and also follow me across all my social media feeds under the Artisan Pirate name. As always, links to contact me as well as all my social media feeds will always be linked down in the description box below these videos. That's about all for this one. And remember, guys, if I can make it or do it, so can you guys. I'm the Artisan Pirate. Take care, and I'll see you guys real soon.